After tagging the previous all-time high, Bitcoin got a relief rally, but now as I'm recording this video, it seems like we're heading back down there. In today's video, I'll be talking about where I think Bitcoin could be headed next and where my key invalidations would be for my Bitcoin long trade. We'll also be going over the most recent news as it pertains to tariffs and the overall rate cuts, which may come in September. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. First of all, everyone is currently freaking out about Bitcoin because after this relief rally, we are now back below the bottom of the range, flirting with the 100 EMA, which is this turquoise line as you can see here on the chart. So what is next for Bitcoin? Can we move higher from here, or is it officially over as so many people seem to be calling for? Right now, I told you in yesterday's video that I was actually in a Bitcoin long. And so my invalidations for my current Bitcoin long would be if we were to fall back below $110,000. At that point in time, I would be cutting my trade and taking on the market with a different point of view. But right now, as we can see, we are still above the previous all-time high. Now, can we get wicks back down to below $112,000? Of course, that is a possibility. And I also talked about the fact how in yesterday's video, we could even potentially tag this low once more, because as we know, typically in the crypto market, lows that are set on weekends are not that reliably the final low. So let's see what happens here. Are we going to make our way lower, or can we get the confirmation we need for this to just be a higher low on the 12-hour time frame, and then Bitcoin can go ahead, move back within this range, and finally tag some liquidity to the upside? My base case is that even if Bitcoin is to move lower from here, we will still get a more significant rally in the short term. The reason I say that once more is because of the liquidity. There is so much liquidity to the upside, and even with today's correction, so many more people decided to swing short. And now we can see that with all this liquidity to the upside, we grabbed the liquidity to the downside, which were a lot of people that had their stop losses extremely tight, or they longed the market far too early. We can see that we tapped into it, and now it looks, in my opinion, like we could be moving higher and grabbing liquidity to the upside. As I said though, there's no reason to really freak out, because zoom out and look at this chart. What do you see? Bitcoin has been absolutely flying over the past few months. And honestly, if a small correction like this shakes you out of the market, I don't think anyone can help you, because this is perfectly normal in the crypto market. Now, ultimately, when we have that low that I discussed sometime around August to September, I actually think that we could be tapping into lower levels, maybe even below $100,000. But as I said, in the short term, my base case is actually that we move up higher than here. So if we are to break below $110,000, I will cut my Bitcoin trade. However, right now, we could potentially be forming a higher low, sending us much higher. Now, if I take a look at these liquidation maps, what I wanted to show you here is that on the 30-day time frame, there is now officially 2 times more short liquidation leverage than long liquidation leverage. And so as you can see here, this amounts on the right here, cumulative short liquidation leverage just under 20 billion, and on the left here, cumulative long liquidation leverage just under 10 billion. So as you can see here, very, very interesting. Shorts continue to pile into the market as Bitcoin seems to continue to drop here. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is losing this low. We lose that low and we start losing $110,000. As I said, no longer will be in that Bitcoin long, and I'll have to assess my options in terms of trading. However, I am also in an altcoin short, which is currently sitting in around $15,000 in profit, which you'll know if you're in my premium Telegram group. By the way, if you want to join that, that is the first link in my description down below. All you have to do is message me the word premium, and I'd be happy to onboard you completely for free. Now, next thing I want to show you as we talk about Bitcoin is Ethereum against Bitcoin. And you can see that when we have these pullbacks, Ethereum against Bitcoin also tends to have a little bit of a pullback. But I would be expecting, if Bitcoin does bounce here, Ethereum will likely bounce with it, and perhaps even stronger, as we've seen this trend has just continued on up. So right now, Bitcoin dominance is also starting to increase after starting off the week with a little bit of a red candle. The reason being, when Bitcoin dumps, altcoins dump a little bit more, and I still don't think that this trend has broken, as so many people are calling for altcoin season. As I said, in terms of my spot portfolio, I have Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm happy with those positions. I will reassess when we actually get a true altcoin season. And speaking of altcoin season, this could tie into rate cuts, which a lot of people seem to be talking about right now. And you can see that $3 trillion Goldman Sachs expects the Federal Reserve to begin cutting interest rates in September. It's not that much of a shocker though, because as you can see on the official website, there is now an 89% chance that we will be seeing rate cuts in September. Let's see how this develops, but ultimately, this is what everyone has been waiting for. And what I also wanted to show you here is that there are some developments in terms of tariffs. So Switzerland's president is flying to the US today as the country races to lower President Trump's 39% tariffs on Switzerland. Then we also have the European Union halting the retaliatory tariffs as they finalize a trade deal with the US, ultimately positive. And President Trump said he narrowed down his pick to replace Fed Chair Jerome Powell to 4 final people. Trump says he might announce his new Fed chair fairly soon. So this should be exciting, and we'll have to see how the market reacts to this. We also do know now that US Treasury Secretary Bessent has declined consideration to be the Fed chair. So perhaps this is now narrowed down to 3 people to potentially replace Jerome Powell. And this was a very quick update because honestly, not much has changed. My spot portfolio remains exactly the same, and I'm hoping for a Bitcoin bounce here. As I said, I told you my invalidations, but right now we are still holding above the previous all-time high, and we may find our way back in this range as we continue to try to hold the 100 EMA as support, this turquoise line on the chart. Also, when in doubt, zoom out. You can see that we've had a crazy pump up over the past few years for Bitcoin. And yes, the cycle is getting close to the end, but I don't think that the end is quite here. And I will make sure to keep you updated when I think that the end is here and when I will be selling most of my crypto portfolio. So make sure to subscribe if you want to know exactly when I'm doing that. And the last thing that I need to leave you with here, miss the entire Bitcoin puke, then decide that this is the optimal entry. Ah, yes, the bottom shorter. You might win, but you never want that to be you. As we can see here, this is not the time to be shorting Bitcoin. If you manage to short when we got rejected forming lower highs, then ultimately these were excellent trade setups. But here, it is not the time to go max short on Bitcoin. If we start to lose the previous all-time high and then $110,000, then maybe you can consider some scalp shorts. But the majority of this downside move, in my opinion, in the short term is done. And I do think that Bitcoin will likely get a bounce from around these regions. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. I will, of course, always keep you updated in terms of how my trades are going. And I'll see you in tomorrow's video.